Now look at us. We rising up. You don't really know I shine. Me, I got something that I need to prove. I cannot lose, nah. Everything I do that really is news. You look confused, why? You are what you choosing to do. Me, I've been making the moves, paying my dues, getting this done with the fam. Y'all know that I am the dude. Bend that low, hit that high, got that hustle, got that drive. One more time, best alive. I want it all, everything mine.
Welcome back to the Football Forecast, man. You already know what time it is, dude. There's no bye weeks this week. Every single team is playing. Obviously, we are already past the Thursday night game. I'll get to that one in just a second. But that means in this video, I got to give you all 15 picks, man. I'm going to be picking every single game against the spread, the over-unders, and there are some juicy money lines out there. And I went through this entire slate, and I picked and bet every single thing last Monday night. But I didn't share it because I wanted to follow the injuries and everything else going on around the league. I'm actually pretty glad that I went back and took a second look at some of this stuff, so I'll dive into some of that a little bit deeper. But God bless America, man. Vegas got us. They got us fucking good. And they did every single thing that they could have possibly done to tell us exactly what the fuck was going to happen on Thursday night. And I did everything in my power to just not listen, okay? But clearly, Vegas knew something that we didn't, and not very often do you see this, but they did not budge. So typically what happens when they set these lines, as the money pours in, the more money that gets dumped on one side, that line starts shifting. That line stayed the exact same all week long despite 90% of the money being on the Vikings. And Vegas did not budge. They did not move that line at all. They literally sat in the pocket all week long and just told us straight to our face, I don't care how much money you all lay on the Vikings, we are not moving this line. And I should have recognized that, but I just couldn't get it out of my head that the Vikings were better on defense than they actually are. So a major letdown on Thursday. Luckily, some of the prop bets that I put out did come through, so it wasn't a complete loss, but definitely took an L on Thursday night. But like I said, man, I went back and looked at all the bets that I had made Monday night for this weekend, today, Sunday's games. And I'm glad that I did. So let's get into it, man.
There ain't nothing better than the West Side, that's and right. I'm like, ooh, we on the map. We get the bag and they run it back. And I'm like, ooh, we on the map. We get the bag and they run it back. And I'm like, ooh,
We're going to start off with the 1 o'clock slate real quick. So you got Cincinnati hosting Philadelphia. Cincinnati's a 3-point favorite at home. The over-under for this is 47.5. Cincinnati's pretty healthy overall, and they're definitely in a desperate position considering the way that they started the year. But, man, frankly, they have a bad offensive line, and I'm just not really sure after seeing what the Philadelphia Eagles were able to do last week against Daniel Jones that they're going to be able to keep Burrow upright. But then again, I thought the same thing against the Ravens, and even though the Ravens ended up winning that game like I thought they would, there really wasn't like an extreme amount of pressure on Joe Burrow. Obviously, he threw the ball all over the yard. So, but I do expect him to be running for his life a little bit more in this game. And at the end of the day, man, I just think that the Philadelphia Eagles have more firepower than the Cincinnati defense can withstand. T. Higgins in this game is listed as questionable. And then on the Philadelphia side, Dallas Goedert, the tight end, and their starting right guard, Mekhi Becton, are both out. So obviously that doesn't really help the case here with Philadelphia. So who really knows with T. Higgins, to be completely honest with you. But I just think that Philadelphia has way too much firepower, and they're going to be able to get pressure on Joe Burrow. So even though Cincinnati's at home, man, I like Philadelphia +3. I also like them on the money line. As far as the over-under goes, I think that Cincinnati and Philadelphia will both be able to score on each other for the most part. Cincinnati's defense is horrible. And and Philadelphia's offense just has too many weapons. Obviously, Joe Burrow will do Joe Burrow things. I think that he'll be able to throw the ball around a little bit. But yeah, I think that Philadelphia wins a shootout here. And Miami's at home. They're laying 4.5 against Arizona. The over-under in this game is 46.5. You think about the public perception of these two teams, albeit the Arizona Cardinals aren't really looked at as like this vaunted, powerhouse of a team. But Miami, over the last month and a half or so, they've been unwatchable. Like, it's not even football. It's worse offense than what we typically see out of like a Navy or Army or a team like that in college football, or Iowa in years past in college football. I mean, that is how bad this offense has been. So this line stinks. Miami, the way that they've looked, they really shouldn't be favored over anybody until, we see that Tua can make it through an entire ball game again. At first, I thought, yes, I'm going to hammer down. Duh, this is obvious. Going to bet Arizona on the money line, and I'm going to take the points. And then I went back and looked at it, man. The entire right side of their offensive line's banged up. They got 3 of their depth players on IR. Their box players being their defensive line and their linebackers. They have 5 players in that part of their defense that are on IR, plus their starting defensive tackle and their starting corner out. And we continue to see this hot and cold stretch between Kyler Murray not being able to get the ball to his best playmaker, Marvin Harrison Jr. Tyreek Hill is questionable, but typically Tyreek will play through minor injuries. Overall, the offense is healthy now. There's Miami's starting defensive end and one of their defensive backs, their nickel back, is out. Tua coming back does change the dynamic big time. I mean, all of a sudden, the deep shots are a threat again. So even though it's hard to take Miami minus anything right now, Tua coming back does change everything. And assuming he doesn't bounce his head off the turf again, this should hit pretty big. Miami could probably win this game by the third quarter. As far as the over-under goes in this Miami game, I like the under here. We really don't know what Miami's going to look like coming out. It's not like they've been able to practice with Tua for too long. Obviously, you expect a veteran to be able to jump right back in the lineup and, just kind of do his thing. But there could be a little bit of cobwebs to shake off there. So I like the under, especially with all of Arizona's injuries to their offense and their offensive line. The next game, New England is hosting the New York Jets. The New York Jets are road favorites here. They're -7. The over-under set at 41.5. I took the over in this game. So the New York Jets being road favorites right here, -7, tells me that they're kind of due for a big game here. And to be honest with you, this is a really, really big spread. And we're seeing this in about 4 other games this week where you have a team that really has not looked good on offense at all, who's a touchdown favorite or more, and the over-under is 45 points or less. It's hard to lay that many points with a team that has not looked good offensively, but I think the line there, Vegas is trying to tell you something. If there is ever a week where either A, their defense shows up, or B, their offense starts clicking, and I'll admit in the first half against the Steelers last week, you saw an immediate impact of what Devontae Adams does to this offense. Garrett Wilson was running a hell of a lot more free. Breece Hall was running a hell of a lot more free. Aaron Rodgers still is under a tremendous amount of pressure nonstop. But, man, this New England team has been soft, to quote their head coach. Drake May has looked pretty good, though, and the New York Jets have definitely proven to be prone to both the run and the pass. So I don't trust their defense. Because I don't trust their defense, I do like the over in this game. The over-under is set at 41.5. I like the over there. But at the end of the day, New England's very limited on depth. They pretty much have players questionable and on IR across the board. And I don't know if this is basically just a wash or a reset type of game where they're just going to rest their players. take the L and go. That's kind of how the line is set. Even though both starting safeties for the New York Jets are out, and Drake May clearly has this offense a little bit more explosive than Jacoby Brissett did. I don't think that it'll be enough to stay within a touchdown, but because of those same reasons is exactly why I like the over here. The next game, Detroit is hosting the Tennessee Titans. The spread here is 10.5. Obviously, Detroit being the home favorite. The over-under line is set at 44.5. I don't think that this is quite as simple as it makes it sound. I think that they just set this number extremely high, trying to get you to buy the Lions. I think they're trying to oversell the Lions, blowing them out here. But fact of the matter is, man, when you dig into this game a little bit deeper, you realize the Detroit Lions are often extremely difficult, hard-fought divisional game. It's always tough for teams to bounce back to that. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of exhaustion that goes into that. They have 5 defensive line players that are on IR. Obviously, the highlight player being Aiden Hutchinson, plus the other defensive end, Josh Paschal, who typically starts. He's also been ruled out. Okay, so there's pretty much nothing up front left for the Detroit Lions, and their secondary is extremely young. We saw them struggle all year last year. They added some pieces this year. They're just not quite ready yet. The Tennessee Titans offense is atrocious throwing the football. Will Levis is questionable in this game, which I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse at this point after seeing Mason Rudolph. But the rest of the offense is healthy. They do have a starting inside linebacker and a corner. L'Jarius Sneed, obviously he's an all-pro corner. They're out. But this is an all-pro defense across the board, man. Typically, any game that involves the Tennessee Titans, I'm not too eager to take the over, man. But I think the Detroit has enough players out, enough key players out, especially up front, to allow the Tennessee Titans to do what they actually do best, which is run the football. I can see the Tennessee Titans being able to score 17 to 24 points, somewhere in that window, and staying within this 10.5 number. I think that the Detroit Lions are going to control this game, but I also can see the Lions getting off to a pretty damn slow start, and it's because of that slow start that the Tennessee Titans are going to be able to somehow backdoor or stay within this 10.5 point window. I think that this is just kind of a classic sleepy type of spot situation here for Detroit. But at the end of the day, with the injuries on both defenses, the over should hit. It really should. The next game, Cleveland is hosting the Baltimore Ravens, the hottest team in the NFL, the most explosive offense in the NFL. And y'all going to call me crazy as hell, man, but I'm picking the Browns outright. And I'm picking the Browns outright for multiple reasons, man. Number one, Jameis Winston's making his first start, and I know that Jameis Winston isn't the same Jameis Winston that he was when he was stealing crab legs and shit, okay? I know this is not the same Jameis Winston that we saw in Florida State or the early Tampa Bay days, but we don't know who this Jameis is. Fact is, he's not Deshaun Watson. I think that there is a possibility here that the Baltimore Ravens, who've just been rolling through everybody, I think that they kind of don't take this game serious. I think that they look across the board. They see Amari Cooper, their best weapon, gone. Nick Chubb's pretty much the only one left. We can stop the run. I think that they look at this Cleveland Browns team and go, who the hell's Jameis Winston these days? I think that this is the type of environment for Baltimore going on the road in a division game with the Cleveland team that could possibly play inspired for 1 week under the new command of Jameis Winston with Deshaun Watson obviously being out. I think that there's just a little bit too much new, fresh energy for the Cleveland Browns, and I can kind of see the Baltimore Ravens rolling into town like they can sleepwalk through this. Obviously, the Baltimore Ravens are going to be able to score. I think that they wake up eventually, man. I think that this does eventually hit the over. In order to stay within 8.5 or possibly win, you would definitely figure that this would have to be a super low-scoring game. And it very well could be, man. Honestly, this is me picking against myself. My first gut instinct was under, but I changed it to the over. I just think that maybe Jameis Winston gives them a spark that they've been looking for. I think that this offense is totally different when you take Amari Cooper out of the picture and then you add Nick Chubb. It's just a lot of different shit to prepare for on a short week. So I just think it's a classic letdown spot here. And Marlon Humphrey, who's clearly one of the best playmakers on the Baltimore Ravens defense, he's doubtful this game. The Baltimore Ravens cornerback position is depleted. I mean, their offense is healthy. They should be able to score. But I don't think that they come off firing on all cylinders, man. Walking into a hostile environment in a divisional game, man, yeah, give me Cleveland Browns plus the 8.5 and on the money line. The next game, Jacksonville is hosting Green Bay. Jacksonville is a 4.5 point underdog. So Green Bay, road favorites here. The over-under in this game is set at 49.5. These are two high-powered offenses. Jacksonville looked like shit, but when they get Evan Ingram back, it opens up a lot more space in the secondary for Trevor Lawrence to take some shots, man. Overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars are pretty healthy. They did look really, really good in London, but they were in London for 2 weeks, okay? I think that there's a little bit of an exhaustion level to this football team coming back home. The Green Bay Packers have been rolling, man. They have. They're healthy. They look explosive. They're 2-0 on the road. You could argue that, maybe they're due for a little bit of a crapper here because offensively, it seems like they can't do any wrong. But, man, I jacked the alt spread up on this. Man, I like the Green Bay Packers to score a ton in this game. The Jacksonville Jaguars are coming back home, and they're not facing the fucking New England Patriots anymore, man. So definitely give me the over in the Green Bay Packers minus 4.5. And I think that I changed this line to like minus 9.5 and minus 15.5, something like that, minus 16.5. So, yeah, I mean, that's it, man. I just think Jacksonville's tired coming home, dude. The next game, Houston, is home favorites against Indianapolis. This is a game that I definitely had to take a second look at. My first thought is, with all the injuries and everything else that they've been battling, I mean, they do potentially have, greatest show on turf type of talent on the offense, but if they can't keep them all on the field, I can see where that gets frustrating here, man. But they definitely look flat without Nico Collins. But otherwise, their offense is healthy now. Their starting linebacker and free safety are out. And to be honest with you, Indianapolis, they suck, dude. And they're horrible with Anthony Richardson. Like, anybody can see it. The entire fan base, whether they want to admit it or not, I know that they keep wanting to support Anthony Richardson, but he's a horrible quarterback. This offense had like 3 points at halftime last week. Joe Flacco would have had 30 last week. Okay? Maybe not. But Anthony Richardson is horrible. And because they are so bad, going on the road to Houston, who I know is capable to explode, man, this 4.5 line number stinks, dude. I feel like this could have been a game where they tried to oversell Houston and made them 10.5 point favorites, and everybody'd been like, oh, yeah, Houston's going to kill them. But obviously, they're not willing to give up that many points, man. And for Indianapolis, the way that they've looked, I mean, the perception of the Indianapolis Colts is so bad. And despite Houston's struggles, man, they're still 5-2. So for Indianapolis to be road dogs at only 4.5, man, is wild to me. And because that line stinks so bad, it tells me something's up here, man. I'm going to start listening to what Vegas is trying to tell me. I think that they're due for some sort of fluky win, and I'm going to bet Indianapolis on the money line as well, man. So, yeah, give me I think Houston struggles to score still. Anthony Richardson sucks. So, I mean, I don't think that this is a crazy shootout. Watch it be an 80-point game. Who knows? But I'm betting the under 46.5. But most importantly, because I don't bet very much on the over-unders anyways, I'm definitely taking the Indianapolis Colts at 4.5, plus 4.5, and I'm definitely betting the money line with them as well, man. This line is it reeks. It really does. They're definitely trying to tell you something doesn't make sense here. Tampa Bay was originally favored at home against the Atlanta Falcons, but shortly after that game Monday night, it shifted 5 points overnight. So The Falcons are now laying 2.5 points on the road. I don't like this at all. This line actually stinks as well. So when you look at Tampa Bay, what's been killing them defensively all season long is their health. This is as healthy as they've ever been. They've got pretty much almost all their starters back. Like, they're getting close. They're starting offensive line, they're starting defensive line, they're starting secondary. I mean, everybody's healthier than they've ever been except for the two big weapons. Most bettors are only thinking about Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. But, man, this offense is explosive. They really are. They're going to be just fine with Jalen McMillan, and they're going to be just fine with Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmer, Cade Otton, Rashad White. Bucky Irving is out this game, but Sean Tucker showed that he's capable of coming in and doing some work out of the backfield. This seemed too obvious for them just to flip 5 points overnight. When you look at the public numbers in this game, the public is even split on it, but more of the money is leaning towards the Buccaneers in this game. That tells you who that money is. That's the people that know more than most of us do, man. They're betting big-time money on the Buccaneers. So, man, give me the Buccaneers plus 2.5 and on the money line. I think that the whole world is going to be betting Atlanta here. Short-term memory tells you no Chris Godwin, no Mike Evans. We just saw Kirk Cousins put up 500 yards in primetime. So I think everybody's going to be on the Falcons here. And honestly, Vegas got shit on the last couple weeks. I think that they're trying to trick us with some of these lines, and maybe I'm overthinking it. I very well could be. But I think that Vegas is throwing out some fluky shit, trying to get people to bite, because a lot of these lines stink and they're way too obvious. On surface level, they're way too obvious. Maybe I'm reading into some of these things too much, but the way that the public has kind of gotten over on Vegas over the last couple weeks, and Thursday night was super fluky, man. That line not moving despite 90% of the money going the other way tells me that something's up, and I think that Las Vegas is trying to get super tricky. So a lot of these lines looked obvious. I think that this week is one of those weeks where, like, if it looks obvious, be careful. Be careful with those obvious lines, man. But anyways, man, that's my advice, but what the hell do I know? So go get you some money, man. Do it your way. Later.
How you play the game with the people that writing the rules? Ain't the fame that I'm after when paying the dues. I've been through the pain that's reflected in the attitude. Might be winning now, but the thing is that I had to lose. So go and tell me what you really want to do. And lonely at the top, cause there ain't a lot of room. Ain't no other option, that's all I ever knew. So I'ma get it poppin', you know how I'ma do. I've been down through the blood and the sweat. Guarantee you can know I'm a threat. I've been down